All languages are equal in the sense that there is nothing especially limiting about any of them, that they all meet the social and psychological needs of their speakers, and that they are all equally deserving of scientific study. There are, however, some misconceptions about languages which stem from a failure to recognize the above statement. The most important of these is the idea that there are such things as primitive languages. The fact of the matter is that every culture which has been investigated, no matter how primitive it may be in cultural terms, possesses a fully developed language with a complexity comparable to those of the so-called civilized nations. Although the human race can be said to have evolved from a primitive to a civilized state, there are no signs of language having gone through the same kind of evolution. There are no Bronze Age or Stone Age languages. All have a complex grammar. Opinions or misconceptions at the other end of the scale from so-called primitive languages are those concerning the natural superiority of certain languages. Latin and Greek, for example, were once, and by some still are, viewed as models of excellence in Western Europe because of the literature and philosophy these languages expressed. The idea that one's own language is superior to others is widespread, but the reasons given for the superiority vary greatly from culture to culture. A language might be viewed as the most logical, or the language of gods, or the oldest, or the most subtle, or simply the easiest to pronounce. Arabic speakers, for example, feel their classical language is the most beautiful and logical, with an incomparable grammatical symmetry and richness of words. Classical Arabic is strongly identified with the language of God, the language used in heaven, and thus must be superior to all others. A similar argument has also been applied to other classical languages, such as Sanskrit or Hebrew, especially with regard to which language is the oldest. Some Japanese feel that their language is too difficult or too complex for foreigners to master and is therefore inherently superior. Ultimately, such a sense of superiority can lead to laziness. For instance, many speakers of English are unwilling to learn foreign languages, knowing that their language is studied in just about every country on the planet. Some languages are, of course, more useful or prestigious than others at a given period in history, but this is due to the political or economic dominance of the speakers of the time, and not to any inherent linguistic characteristics. The view of modern linguistics is that a language should not be valued on the basis of such political or economic influence. If this were otherwise, modern American English would be better than British English, or the dialect of Tokyo Japanese would be superior to that of Tsugaru. At present, therefore, it is not possible to rate the excellence of languages in linguistic terms. How, ultimately, could we compare the merits of Latin and Greek with the proverbial wisdom of the Chinese, the extensive oral literature of the Polynesian Islands, or the depth of scientific knowledge which has been expressed in English? Perhaps one day some kind of objective linguistic evaluation will be devised, but until then the theory that some languages are in themselves better than others ought to be rejected.